We'll be joined by some additional legislators. I'm State Senator Nan Orrock, Senate District 36, and we want to thank you today for your attendance at the press conference of the Working Families Legislative Caucus. Members of the caucus are here gathered together today, officers and members, leaders on different subject areas, and we are pleased to stand before you to present our ideas and recommendations on how to address Georgia's budget shortfall and the revenue solutions that we believe are in the best interest of Georgians. The Working Families Legislative Caucus was organized formally in 2007. We've been meeting for some time to create and enact policies to meet the needs of Georgia's working families. We're a nonpartisan group. We're dedicated to the values of rewarding work, valuing families, increasing democracy, and growing our economy. Today, Georgia is faced with a grave financial crisis. We just left the floor of the Senate, taking a vote on a supplemental budget that again makes deep and fundamental cuts to education and human services. We feel that we're called upon as leaders in this state to find answers to meet the needs of the people that we represent. We were elected by the men and women of Georgia, young and old, black and white, across Georgia, from North Georgia to South Georgia, from the big cities to the rural counties of a few thousand people. And they sent us here to stand up for them and represent their interest, not the interest of a few, not the interest of the moneyed, not the interest of big business, but the interest of Georgians. And we feel that we cannot stand silent in the face of hearing a lot of words on behalf of families and their pain who are losing their homes, losing their jobs, losing their health insurance, their savings, seeing their children attend schools with 4-day weeks, seeing basically all that they've worked for go up in smoke while the state leaders fail to step forward with real solutions. We're here today to say that we think that our approach to our budget crisis should not be one that harms the middle class and harms working families. We should be making every effort to help the middle class, to help working families. Instead, we find all too often that these solutions that are being brought, which are deep, deep cuts, more cuts, and then cuts again, coupled with tax cuts for the rich, we think that those solutions harm our families and turn our state in the wrong direction. That's why we have worked to put together a package of initiatives that we think would provide us real answers to this budget crisis. Now, last year, the governor reported that we had long since ended the budget cuts that eliminated waste and fraud, that we cut down to the bone. That was in January 2009. Here, a year later, they've continued to cut. In June, the cuts continued, proposed amendments to the 2010 amended budget, and we're cutting another $1.2 billion out of essential state services at a time when the people of Georgia need services, at a time when they have no other place to turn, when jobs are going up in smoke, when we have record unemployment across the state, in some counties and areas of the state up to 15%. We continue to see budgets brought to us that project growth when we know that's not the case. And it makes possible when you promote budget numbers that are not going to really occur in the real world. And we just heard this on the floor of the Senate. All the projections that we were going to break even this year with each month's revenue did not occur. And we're down to cutting almost 1/4 of the budget of the state of Georgia. We say it's time for new solutions. It's time to look for revenues. We continue to shift our burden down to the counties and cities and to the school boards to try to cope. We have been cutting, and I must underline this, we have been cutting our education budget in Georgia's good times. Every year since this governor has come in office, he has come with a budget that included basic cuts to our funding formula for public education in this state. That is unconscionable. We need to look for solutions, not further cuts. And I'll tell you, our local officials can tell you they've been poorly served by the type of leadership that continues in that direction. Our tax base has shifted from manufacturing to service. We are in a structural budget deficit. Experts have been laying this out in black and white, clear terms with the numbers and the data to back it for some years now. So in our best of times, we were making ill-advised cuts to a core service that the citizens expect and need, and that's public education. If you look at education, we're 47th in the U.S. on-time graduation. We're near the bottom of all the states in our SAT scores, and we have a record high level of remediation needs in freshmen that are attending our public colleges here in Georgia. We have 35 of our school districts at or near insolvency as we speak. On health care, the numbers are equally bad. We're 41st in premature deaths. We're 42nd in infant mortality. We're 40th in cardiovascular diseases, and we're 46th in infectious diseases. This is in a Sun Belt state that has seen record good times that we are reporting these bleak and negative numbers. We can do better. But when you look at the fact that we're 27th in our per capita public health spending, you begin to peel back the reality and get at what is happening with our health statistics. Over time, our overall health ranking has declined. We were at 33rd in 1999. We're at 43rd in 2009. We slipped. 10 states surpassed us in 10 years, and we continue to go in the wrong direction. The trend line is going in the wrong direction. It's time for real leadership. We know that we're very threatened with our mental health services, people with developmental disabilities. The challenge has grown so dire on those fronts that it's been the threat of legal action by the feds that has prompted small increases in highly selective areas, not enough to do the job. And our poverty levels in our state have increased over the past 6 years. By 26%, Georgians living in poverty. Food stamp recipients up by 84%. Unemployment risen by 73%. 20% of our children here in Georgia under 18 were living in poverty in 2007. So this sharp increase in poverty for Georgia families has gone on while we were experiencing sustained economic growth. People, what's wrong with this picture? We've not been making the right decisions about how we invest our tax dollars. And year after year, we've faced budget cuts, long-term unemployment at record levels, Georgians losing access to health care. Our uptick last month, we increased the numbers of Georgians that are uninsured from 1.6 million to 1.7 million. The statistics tell a very stark and real story. And we're here with you today to say that we think it's time to step up and meet our basic duty to meet this economic crisis with a measured approach that does both strategic budget cuts combined with new revenue sources. We have got to go out here and get some revenue. That is a must. 35 states in this country raised revenues last year. Georgia, I say, needs to step to the front and be a part of that trend of responsibly meeting our need as government to provide for our people. So I'm going to bring to you several people in our leadership that are going to talk about measures that we believe can help make a difference and do what? Build our state revenues so that we can meet the needs of Georgians. And if we don't invest in our future now, it's not something that we can come back later and pick up on. We will not be able to undo the damage of those children who are crammed into oversized classrooms and are going to school 4 days a week. We won't be able to turn back around and do that. Those furloughed teachers, what about their household incomes? What about the responsibilities and obligations that state employees have to meet? We need to be moving forward, and that's why we call on all the legislators, Democrats and Republicans, to join forces to address this budget crisis. We're no longer willing to stand by with our education, health, our social services, and our public safety programs being decimated by the refusal and the resistance to going out here and building a revenue base in Georgia that's realistic to meet the needs of our state. ask and recognize several of our officers that are going to come forward today that we represent all parts of the state. We want to talk about the tobacco tax bill, the transparency and accountability in all these tax expenditures. The special interests have been able to secure tax cuts in our budget code for years now. We need to bring those out to the light of day, and we need to look for new sources of revenue, and we have some people who have developed an expertise and have bills to recommend that we consider here in this General Assembly.